If you're trying to teach your baby to crawl on their hands and knees, but their arms seem too weak and they keep collapsing onto their face, this video is for you. One of the most common questions I get as a pediatric physical therapist is how to strengthen my baby's arms so that they can finally crawl on their hands and knees. Today I'm going to show you 5 simple exercises that I use with babies to strengthen their hands, arms, and shoulders so that they can better support their upper body weight and move towards crawling on their hands and knees. But before we jump into the exercises, let's answer one important question. When do babies usually start crawling? The answer to that question will help to put a lot of parents' minds at ease. Most babies begin crawling somewhere between 6 and 12 months of age, with many starting right around that 8 to 9 month mark. So if your baby is 6 to 7 months old and still figuring things out, I'm usually not too worried. But if your baby is getting closer to 12 months and still not crawling or still can't support themselves on their hands and knees because their arms seem too weak, that's something we want to work on. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So let's start with my favorite exercise for building arm strength. Give baby a toy in front of them, sit behind your little one, and bring baby close to you and let baby go ahead and lean baby's upper body forward. Notice the way I have his body leaning forward. Notice where I have my hands. I am letting him hold on to my fingers. I'm giving him my fingers to hold on to. But pay attention to this. I have his elbows straight, and so he is bearing weight through his wrists, through his elbows, and through his shoulder joint as I let him lean forward, and I'm just holding him and he's leaning forward. So if you start off with that activity with your little one and you do that a couple of sessions throughout the day, but the important part of that little activity was just to show you how to have baby start bearing some weight through their hands and actually building up that arm strength. This is what's called co-contraction, where baby needs to contract the muscles on both sides of their joint. This next activity is called a baby plank. So here's how you set this up. Put an interesting toy in front of your little one on the ground. Sit with your baby on the floor, on a carpet, or some other soft surface. I've got a blanket on top of the carpet. Position your baby over your legs so that you have baby with their arms on the ground. And notice how much support I'm giving him. I'm supporting him under his chest, and I have his body over my leg, and I'm using my leg kind of as a fulcrum. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm trying to get his hands to be flat. That's one of the first things I want you to work on. Get those fingers flat. You can see he's resisting me. He's trying to get away from bearing his weight through his arms. And this is going to take a little bit of playing around with it. You have to be patient. Do it when your baby is happy. Some babies tend to curl their little hands into fists. I finally got him to do it there. And notice that move that I just did right there with my forearm. I use my forearm to press down on his tush so that I can use my leg as a fulcrum to ease some of the weight. If I push down on his bottom, that takes some of the weight off of his arm because I'm using my leg as a pivot point. And so I pressed down on his bottom a little bit with my forearm, and that raised his head up to give him a little bit of a break. Now you notice what I'm doing. I'm not fighting with him. I'm not fussing with him. I'm not pushing him to do too much. We just take a little break, reset, and then try again. And if you need to give your baby some support at the elbows, in order for baby to get and start doing this move, baby did a face plant. That is totally normal, totally expected. A lot of times a parent would abandon the activity at this point where baby collapses onto their face. I want to encourage you to not do that. I want to encourage you to let baby collapse, reset, and continue the activity. Nothing is happening to your little one here. Baby is not crying. Baby is not fussing. He is okay. We did a face plant, and we're going to come back up and reset and recapture the moment and get back into it. Now he's bearing his body weight, or at least a little bit of his body weight, on his hands. That's a baby plank. Now, there's an expression that says Rome wasn't built in a day. That applies to working with babies. We want to take baby steps and do them small bits at a time. This is the same little one. A couple of days later, I want to say about a week later, I normally see this baby. I was seeing him at this point. I was seeing him twice a week. So this one might have been a couple of days after that first video we just watched. Now watch him. Watch where my hands are. Where my fingers are, I'm giving him some support at his elbows so that I'm helping him to keep his elbows straight, to keep his fingers flat on the ground, bear his body weight through his hands, lift that little head of his upright so that he can start doing his plank. And all he's responsible for at this point is doing his upper body, just bearing some weight over my leg and keeping his head up. And if you can get about 30, 40 seconds at a time out of your little one doing this kind of an activity, you are strengthening baby's arms. You are making progress. Baby's arms are getting stronger. Trust the process. Put in the work daily, several times a day. Here's the next progression up from the baby planks. Now, if you have a little one who doesn't like tummy time, who baby hates being on their hands and knees, this is perfect for this little one. So I'm giving him some pressure under his legs to push up, but I also want to work on his arm strength. And so you can toggle back and forth between the arms and the legs. You work on the baby's legs a little bit, and then you're like, okay, you know what? Baby's tired of that. Let's go ahead and do some arm work. So he is starting to pull his knees under his hips. So let me set this up for you. I'm kneeling behind him. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring his knees under his hips, and I'm going to trap them there. You'll notice that he is actively trying to get away from bearing his weight on his hands. You'll notice he'll put his head down. He's trying to get out of the position. He doesn't like being on his hands and knees. If you look at his face, he is not having the best time. But I'm trying to keep him there. I'm giving him the support under his trunk that he needs. Look at how much support I'm giving him under his chest. And as you give your baby support under their chest in this hands and knees position, reposition the hands so that baby's hands are directly under the shoulders. Those hands are evenly spaced. Now you're giving baby the best opportunity to bear their weight on their hands and knees. Notice where I'm positioning him. I'm giving him something to look at, to take his attention off of this work that he's doing on his hands and knees. And notice the way that really calmed him down almost immediately. He is trying to reach with that left hand, so that immediately means he has to bear more weight on the opposite hand. He's switching, and now he just went back down into more of a commando crawl type of move, as he could not tolerate that position for a very long time. Once your baby is able to bear their body weight on their hands and knees, you want to trap baby on their knees. You notice the way I am actually moving his knees for him. And now that he is close to a toy, I have him reaching for the toy with one arm at a time while he's bearing his body weight on the other side. And then I switched so that he has to reach with his left hand. Now, when he switches with his left hand, you notice that adjustment that he had to make right there. He had to adjust his arm a little bit to bring his arm under his shoulder so that he could lift that left arm up. And that's the kind of movement and adjustment that you have to allow your baby to make. Notice I'm giving him some intermittent support under his trunk to help to facilitate this and work on him being able to do some weight shifting from side to side. So those are a couple of exercises that you can use with your little one to go ahead and strengthen their arms. I hope these exercises gave you a great starting point. Remember, stronger arms aren't built in one day. The goal isn't perfection. It's giving your baby opportunities to practice a little bit every day. Celebrate the small wins. Maybe today your baby stayed up on their hands for about 5 seconds longer than they did yesterday. In the world of pediatric physical therapy, that's called progress, my friends. And progress is exactly what we're after. Now, here's something a lot of parents don't realize. Getting up on hands and knees is only half of learning to crawl. Once your baby can support themselves, the next challenge is figuring out how to move forward, figuring out how to coordinate the right hand with the left leg and the right leg with the left hand and get those knees together. If your baby can get on their hands and knees but just rocks front to back or seems completely stuck like they're frozen in fear, I've made another video where I show you the first things I check as a pediatric physical therapist and how I help babies take those first crawling movements. Click on this video right here and let's keep building on today's crawling skills together. I'll see you over there.